budgets in this industry are meaningless.
Yeah.
You cannot stick to any type of budget.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics. Keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Okay, Dal, you and I were busy today off-site working.
True.
Working on things that may or may not pan out. That's the life of us in Challengers.
Pretty much.
But something got announced today that I don't know if you've heard about. And I don't know how we can do something for it, but I think we should, and I think you would want to.
Go on.
It is a promotional comic.
Oh, yes, I did hear about this. I don't know how we would do anything for it.
Right, and I already put the bug in the ear. I was talking to a rep over at DC a little earlier, and I already said, hey, we'd love to do something, because we have double things we could do. Because Christopher Jones is local.
Oh, is he really?
Ish.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like suburbs.
Okay, I don't think I knew that. That's great.
And, of course, Rich Coase is from
Berwyn.
So I don't know how we get our hands on Svengoolie meets the DC Universe Me TV promotional comic.
Well, did you hear how it's coming out?
No.
It's two
JBO,
pages.
who everyone knows does our intro and outro voiceovers.
Sure.
On this, the comics industry business podcast we do called Contest of Challengers on the Yak Channel Podcast Network, and that same JBO does Car Con Carne on the same Yak Channel. And he had posted a photo of it.
Sure.
That's how I saw it.
My understanding from what I read is that it is something that will be in most or all DC comics as 2 pages per week each week in October.
Oh, interesting.
So in theory, he could sign literally any DC comic.
Sure.
But I don't think there's one specific giveaway comic or thing it will be in. So much
What
as it
about
will
the
be in
trade
a lot of-
paperback?
Yeah, right. Marvel is doing a hardcover collection in stupid air quotes.
Yeah, Dale's doing air quotes, everybody.
Stupid air quotes.
Making stupid air quotes with his fingers.
Stupid air quotes.
Yeah.
For Amazing Spider-Man Full Circle, a one-shot comic book
Okay.
that includes tons of bonus material that they don't list.
Well, they're also doing it for
It's $30.
Marvel Comics 1000 and 1001.
Yeah, but that's got 2 one-shots in it.
Yeah, but Dal, I read the first 5 pages of the event that spins out of that book. Incoming!
Okay.
The weird thing is
another $10 comic that's coming out from Marvel this year.
Is it $10?
It's $10.
Ugh. But it has everybody in it.
Sure.
And it's a Patrick Gleason cover. And it has a lot of people in wrong costumes.
Maybe they'll be red costumes by the time December rolls around.
Maybe. That'll be interesting.
Everyone gets out their winter clothes, which are their 2018 clothes.
And there's legit one character I couldn't name. I thought it might be Young Cable, but I'm not positive.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe
it's Solomon Kane.
One eye on fire, or glowing, and like a torn bandana neckerchief.
Yeah, I think that's Team Cable.
Okay. It's funny that Solomon Kane is getting a revival through Marvel, because when we were at C2E2 this year at Chris Schweizer's booth, I bought a Solomon Kane mini painting from him.
True.
It's a true thing. I did do that.
Yep, I remember I was there.
I would like to thank everybody who donated to the Alzheimer's 5K that I participated in last week. A lot of people who listen to this podcast chipped in, and that was awesome. We raised a lot of money. Did you know, Dal,
Me?
that of the 6 major diseases that take the lives of people in America, Alzheimer's, which is number 6, which is why the list goes to 6, is the only one that doesn't have a survivor.
I did not know that.
we're getting closer, and not me personally, because I'm not a research scientist.
But you're contributing.
I am, and a lot of people did contribute, and we're getting closer every day. And what I like most about the money raised for this particular event is that 77 cents out of every dollar goes directly to research.
That is good news.
That does a lot. It's a higher percentage than a lot of charities do.
Okay.
And obviously there's 23 cents worth of administration costs and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
But literally 77 cents of every dollar that people donated goes to Alzheimer's research.
That's great.
And I would like to think that in our lifetime, I say our, even though I expect your life expectancy is slightly longer than mine, slightly,
Disagree, but go on.
that in our lifetime we will see the first of many survivors of this terrible disease.
That would be great.
Anyway, it happened over the weekend, and I bought a spiffy pair of purple Alzheimer's support shoes that you may or may not see me wearing at the store, because they're actually pretty comfy, and I was worried about them breaking in because they just showed up on Friday, and I needed them for the 5K on Sunday. So I've been getting some extra use out of them, and getting them dirty already. But yeah, it was actually, of the 4 times I've done this was the fastest.
It's great. Getting faster.
I think that's mainly due to Kelsey and all of my recent physical therapy.
Sure.
But hey, why not?
It has a lot of good.
Positive benefits are positive benefits indeed. And I didn't feel nearly as bad all the rest of the day Sunday like I used to.
That's good.
Until my therapy session on Monday, when she kicked my ass.
Yeah, that's her job.
Yeah. But thank you again, everybody. I was humbled by the amount of donations from people who I have never met. There are literally people that donated that I don't even know who they are. I don't recognize their names. I don't know how they found out about it. Some people's parents contributed, which was amazing.
Cool.
And yeah, well, some good money was raised.
That's great.
Our team, which was basically just George and I. Parker walked with us, and he raised a couple $100. But we were one of the top 10 teams as far as money raised.
That's
like
great.
Team 7 or Team 8, with just 2 of us.
That's great.
So, yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, everybody. And I may or may not be doing it again next year. Who knows? We'll find out in a year. So I've got a little list of things to talk about.
Okay.
And I was going to just go down the list in order, but the bulk of it, you see a much larger sheet of paper.
I do indeed.
Which is, in fact, a printout of an email that I had written, and I figured, since I did all this research for this email
Sure.
to answer someone's questions, I'm going to make it a topic. And we're going to bring up a topic we talked about last week with shipping. And first of all, I can combine some of these. I just realized that. Oh, man, that's
less
great.
topics.
I can make all of these into one.
Okay.
Yeah. So first I just wanted to say how much, as a person who unpacks the boxes, and a lot of the things I'm going to be saying specifically on this episode, they are things that relate to me and to me alone. These are not industry-wide problems. These are not things that I'm like, you have to change this. I hate it. These are just things that slow me down on Tuesdays when I'm unpacking.
I feel like you've misunderstood the role of the comics retailer in the comics industry, which is to take every personal slight and minor inconvenience and turn that into something that the industry has to solve right now. Why don't people see how important this is? So I would like you to rephrase that statement.
Why don't people see how important this is?
Thank you.
I do not personally like it when Black Science and Deadly Class come out on the same week.
Why is that?
Because they're both printed on that thicker paper.
Okay.
And they take up more room in the boxes. And since they both have such weird, sporadic publishing schedules anyway, don't double them up.
No?
Don't do that.
I guess
The only thing that makes it better is that East of West is not also out this week.
That's true. I can't really speak to the paper stock problem, but as far as putting them out on the same day, I guess the devil's advocate position is you've got people who are Rick Remender fans. Wouldn't you rather sell them 2 books than 1?
No, what if they can only afford 1? Then they don't buy 1, then they forget and never get it.
I suppose that's possible, but it feels like this late into both series' lifespans, considering this is the final issue of Black Science as well. I don't think they're going to make that decision.
Well, at least it's never going to happen again, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I guess so. It's never going to happen again with those two titles.
By the same token, and this happens all the time, I don't like it when Faithless from Boom Studios comes out the same week that Fearless from Marvel Comics comes out.
Sure.
Only because it's just easy to confuse them.
Yeah.
And even now I had to think twice when saying which one.
We had
just to get it right.
A subscriber recently who needed to revise his list because he had mistakenly asked for Fallen Angels when he meant to ask for Fallen World.
Oh, I see. That is not a thing I would think would ever happen.
No, but it did.
No, I mean us having a subscriber for Fallen World.
We have several, as it turns out.
And maybe even more. We should check more of our Fallen Angels.
Yeah, we'll find out what happens in, November when Fallen Angels #1 comes out? Yeah, I thought this was going to have Ryan in it. What?
There was someone who was a new subscriber, and they had signed up on a Thursday, so now that you and I were there.
Okay.
And one of the books they asked for was Future.
Okay.
What do you think it is?
Future Foundation?
I thought it was Once in Future.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Was it Future Foundation?
I don't know.
Okay.
I put them down for, based off of everything else on their list.
Yeah, without seeing anything else on the list, it's
and
just a blind
they only
guess.
had like 4 or 5 books.
Yeah.
But they didn't get Fantastic Four,
Okay.
so I assumed
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if they were getting stuff like Die or other Image titles or Boom Studio stuff, then yeah, Once in Future. But if they were getting largely Marvel stuff...
It wasn't that cut and dried.
Okay.
We'll find out if they got Once in Future this week and are like, what is this?
Yeah. Where's Julie Power?
Where is Julie Power?
Space.
Where? Oh, okay. That's a good place. That's a good place. I think we mentioned last week that Image had a very small output this week of comics, which by the time people will be listening to this would be last week's comics.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it worked out was we only had 2 actual Image titles make it to the shelf.
Yeah, it was 1, but then we dropped somebody in club who was getting the other one, so we had 2.
And then we only had 1 single issue, 1 copy of each of those books for the shelf.
Yep, we had I believe we had a 50% sell-through on all of our Image shelf comics by midday on Wednesday.
But here's the point, and what we brought up last week. So we only had 1 copy of each of these books for the shelf.
Yeah.
They were both damaged copies.
Yeah.
So when we get books, and if there's damages, we make sure that the club subscribers don't get the damage, if possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes you only have a few club members per title. Sometimes we have too many damages.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, somebody gets a damage and then gets an option of getting a non-damaged one later, like we talked about last week. But this time, the way it worked out was one of them, we only had 1, which would have been for a subscriber, as Dow just said. They were no longer in the system, so that goes back to the shelf. That one was damaged. And then the other one, we only had 1 shelf copy, so that one had to be the damaged one as well.
Yeah.
So we don't have control over that kind of product mishandling. And again, I think we talked about this last time. It comes to the point where, do you want to not have it for 2 more weeks, or do you want to at least put the damaged one out so if somebody wants it, they can have it?
Yeah, the idea that, if there's occasionally a book that is so damaged that you could not sell it. But other times it's like, this deserves to be replaced by the publisher or the distributor, but maybe someone doesn't care that much and just wants to read it.
Yeah, and again, we don't want to have that 2-week waiting period before we get it back in,
right.
And then knowing that we've just cut the window for the next one in half.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, well, first of all, I still haven't done the reorder photo for Instagram.
Oops.
I was busy today.
No one's going to buy books now.
I was busy. You should know you were there.
I was there. You're also drunk from all the drinking you did today.
Look.
Your afternoon cocktails.
There may have been afternoon drinking. It also may have been on an empty stomach.
Yep.
So
what happened to a toasted bagel?
How many hours earlier was that?
I don't know.
It may have hit me a little bit quicker than normal. You couldn't tell. You didn't know. Could you tell? Did you know?
Oh, I mean, I knew because I was, like you said, there.
No, but I mean, we're joking. I was not incapacitated in any way.
Correct.
We just found ourselves in a position to where I could have a cocktail in the afternoon, and why wouldn't I? What am I, a monster?
No, you weren't working today. I mean, technically you were working today, but you weren't at the store today.
I mean, that wouldn't stop me.
That's true.
Have you ever worked with me and Gina?
I mean, I was going to say Gina wasn't there, so I don't...
Right.
Maybe
And
that
that's
changes the
difference.
calculus.
And
I
that's
don't
the
know.
difference, yeah. Yeah, don't worry, it's not Gina tomorrow, so we're not both going to be drunk.
Cool.
Just one of us. But anyway, our standard weekly reorder from Diamond inexplicably was a day late. Now, we knew this going in because we get UPS tracking notifications, and we get our reorders direct shipped to the store, not to the expedited pickup place in Elk Grove Village that the new comics come to. This happens a lot during the year. Obviously, every Monday holiday, it pushes everything back. Anytime UPS is closed for a day, it pushes everything back by a day.
Yeah, not counting holidays, though, I would say it doesn't happen more than 1 or 2 times a year that it's inexplicably delayed. Like, usually there is a perfectly reasonable explanation, but the books just are not even on a truck yet. Very rare, I would say.
And we don't even know why. There's no explanation.
Yeah.
And
they just didn't leave the warehouse until 24 hours after they should have. Like this, there's been times where we don't get the reorder until Thursday because UPS screws up. They show up way too early and then don't come back until the next day. It's on the wrong truck. They don't have all the boxes. Blah,
weather
blah, blah.
conditions.
Yeah. But when it's Diamond's fault, that's the very rare occasion. That's the... Like, I think it happened most recently a few months back when they were like, hey, we had a problem with the warehouse. We could not pack or ship anything for a day. All of your stuff is going to be a day late. It's like, well, that makes sense.
So before we really talk about that or complain about that, we were actually, in that regard, exceptionally lucky this week because many accounts serviced out of the exact same warehouse that we get our new books from had a 1 to 2 day delay because of trucking issues or transportation issues. There were stores that get their books from the same warehouse we do who were notified that their shipments would be a day or 2 late. Can you imagine what that would do to our business to not have new comics out on Wednesday when new comics are out?
It wouldn't be great.
It would not be great. And you would think that with a shipping issue like that, it would affect everybody in the same city. But that's not necessarily the case. We had heard that some stores in some cities got their books. And I don't know enough about the situation to know if that's because those people have alternate shipping ways, like pickup versus delivery, or you can, as a Diamond customer, you can set up different ways to get your books. Like for us, we can go out to Elk Grove Village and have them dropped off and pick them up there, or we can do UPS, or we can arrange a different shipping company where we'd have to set up our own contracts and own schedules and have them do it. And there are some stores that do that. We don't because there's a convenience level in what we do, and we are one of the few cities that has a drop point near them. Like, all told, the things we have to do to get our books into the store on Tuesdays is not that insurmountable.
Sure.
It's not too much of a hassle. It can be traffic, construction, weather, etc., but we kind of prefer it this way because we're in charge of when we pick them up for the most part. We're not at the mercy of a delivery person. We're not at the mercy of not knowing at what time. And we've talked before about how even if you have a great relationship with your UPS driver, they don't work every week.
No.
They take vacations, routes get changed, things change. You can't rely on a specific set time. So we don't know what caused that delay for people. And I just wonder if, like, there's several stores who are very close to us geographically in Chicago that get their books dropped off. I wonder if it's a whole different route that takes the books directly to their stores, or like if they all go to one UPS hub and then it breaks down from there. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just know that while we're saying, hey, our weekly reorder was a day late, and that sucks, we had our books at normal time and on the shelf.
Yeah.
And our hearts go out to everybody that didn't, because that is horrible.
Yeah, it's super rough.
Especially if it's not, like, if it's everybody in your city, fine. That sucks, but you don't have to worry about your people saying, well, that store has it, I can go there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not a super fun thing.
No.
And I'm sorry for everybody that had to go through it. But that brings up another question in the comics industry about shipping costs. Here is the big mystery. No one really knows what Diamond charges retailers for shipping.
Correct.
And that's why some retailers choose to have their own shipping methods, so they have a better handle on what they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
There have been stores that have done deep analyses of Diamond's shipping, and no one can come up with a set answer as to what you're being charged.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do two different ways, we get our books sent, as we said, to a warehouse, and we get them direct shipped to the store. If we choose to have those reorders sent out with the normal shipments, it takes longer, but it would cost less. And we choose to get our books a little bit faster, so we're paying more. But how much more?
I don't know.
No one knows. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I wound up calculating, just to give people an idea. And this is the point where fellow retailers will be like, yes, that doesn't make any sense. And customers will be like, yes, this doesn't make any sense. So here are some statistics that I have for the last 4 weeks. Are you ready?
I am.
Are you sitting down?
I am.
Okay. So, this week, the books that came out this week, we paid $286.85 in shipping for a weight of 512.9 pounds.
Okay.
Now, these books come from two different places. The new books come from Plattsburgh, New York, which is roughly 863 miles away.
Okay.
And then the restock comes from Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is 560 miles away. What I don't have factored in is how much weight comes from which distance, because that was more of a dive than I wanted to go.
Sure.
But anyway, for this week, $286.85 for 512 pounds. Last week, we paid $177.75 in shipping for 446.9 pounds.
Okay.
You'll notice that there is over $100 difference for about 60 extra pounds.
Okay.
But wait, it gets better.
Okay.
It gets significantly better, and by better I mean harder to understand.
Okay.
2 weeks ago, the shipping weight for all the books was 533 pounds, and for shipping we paid $51.74.
That seems weird.
And the week before that, which was our heaviest week at 556 pounds, we paid $169.18.
Huh.
Now, what I didn't do, again, is I didn't break down exactly how many boxes,
Okay.
but I gave you the weights, so I figured the weight, that doesn't matter how many boxes, it matters the size.
True.
And at one point, we used to think that there was a like $6 per box charge from Diamond, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. But yeah, so to recap, $286 for 512 pounds, $177 for 446 pounds, $51 for 533 pounds, $169 for 556 pounds. This is 110 pounds higher than this week, and that week, which was less, was $10 more.
Crazy.
If you ever see our Instagram photos of our Wednesday restock, it seems like it's basically the same amount of stock every week. We try to keep it the same dollar amount.
True.
Obviously, dollar amount doesn't equate weight. That's definitely a thing, and we just talked earlier about how those image books have a different paper, a little bit heavier paper.
Mm-hmm.
DC's changed to more heavier paper. I like their paper.
Mm-hmm.
But the moral of this story is this doesn't make any sense.
Nope. Really doesn't.
And nobody nobody that I have talked to or that has ever been involved in these conversations has any idea of the formula with which these shipping totals are totaled, are accumulated.
Sure.
Can you name me any other business where that would happen?
No.
There was somebody who did a deep dive a few years ago and says that they came to the conclusion that Diamond charges about 10% of the retail price.
Okay.
So if that were the case, that's dramatically cutting into your per unit price.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, to lose basically 10% of everything you order through Diamond, like that's
Yeah.
That's
Eaten
a lot.
Eaten up by shipping.
That's a lot of percentage.
And it's invisible a lot of times when, you know what, to be fair, while looking back at all these shipping charges, when they do a missed item, when they can't find an item in the warehouse, so they can't put it in with your shipment, then they find it afterwards, they send it out for free.
Yeah.
But often that's like a book.
True. And the whole 10% thing, like that's, I'm not seeing anything in our shipping costs that have ever approached 10% of a Diamond order.
Yeah.
Like we've never paid, that I can think of, anywhere close to 10% of what we're, even if you just break out the weekly shipment as opposed to the weekly reorder, even that we're not paying 10% of what the cost is on that for shipping.
Like, just look at how these numbers are so insanely different.
They are. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
There really isn't. And certain times, obviously the $51 week is because reorders that were placed on time didn't get charged until the next week's invoice. And that would then, I guess, include the shipping costs, even though those books were sent out on time.
Sure. I wonder if, I mean, the shipping cost could be like in arrears, where it's, you're not paying the shipping cost for that week's books, you're paying the shipping cost for the previous week's books or whatever else.
But boy, do I hate that kind of stuff.
Because I think these, and then I'm just taking a guess here, but I assume these invoices are generated around the same time the pick tickets and stuff are, and it's not something where they know how this stuff is going to get packed yet to know how much they're going to charge you for the shipping. Like that'll be accumulated afterwards and then applied to the next invoice. I'm guessing.
Sure, but if you look at how close the weights are week to week, there shouldn't ever be a point where the shipping is that far off. If it is pushed back, it should be pushed back evenly. Like it shouldn't just all.
But you know from experience that Diamond, when they have to push back charging us for direct ship reorder, sometimes that's on the next invoice. Sometimes it's 2 invoices from now.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 of them are on 1 invoice. Sometimes none of them are on 1 invoice.
Again, this is a thing that I can't see happening anywhere else in organized retail.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Where, like, with the holidays that cause shipping to be delayed, that causes invoices to be pushed back by a week, and reorder invoices to be put on. Just to recap, I'm sure we talked about this before. I think I should stop saying that because we've talked about everything before at this point in life. But when we place a reorder, it's usually immediately on next week's bill, which means we've already paid for it the day it shows up, which is what I prefer. I don't like having to sell a product to get the money to pay for that product. If that's the point, we should just not have that product. But when they stack, then we have to pay for 2 weeks in a row at sometimes, but we don't know when because it could be a month before they catch up.
Sure. For the reorders, though, I don't know if that's the case because in general, if I place a reorder on Sunday, we get invoiced for it on Wednesday, but we don't pay for it until the following Tuesday.
That's fine. But I don't like being further behind than that.
Sure.
And it doesn't help when the balances just float.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for cash flow issues to basically have a week where you've paid for nothing and then another week where you've paid for 2 weeks worth of things.
And we just had that because we had Labor Day and we knew that was coming up. Fine. So it took an extra week. Then we got hit with a double reorder week, which also means double shipping costs that week.
Yep.
So fine. We cleared that giant hurdle. Then the next week, 0 reorder charge.
Yeah.
So that means immediately it's going to be doubled up again.
Yep.
That it just makes it so much harder to, first of all, budgets in this industry are meaningless.
Yeah.
You cannot stick to any type of budget because of how things ship or how things don't ship.
Not even the shipping element, but just a matter of what happens if Marvel decides this month they're going to do a bunch of $10 comics. I mean, can you opt not to carry them? You can, but that's not a great idea. So how much do you trim other stuff? Can you afford to trim other titles that are maybe, just a few copies for the shelf and you sell out of them every month? You just have to find some way to increase your budget for that month. There's really... with the reorders, the weekly reorders, we try and keep it within a certain range. No matter how much we sell for a week, like the weeks after Free Comic Book Day, where we sold out of a ton of graphic novels, we slowly stagger up to what our previous stock level was. We don't just reorder everything that we sold the next week. Like, it's additional thousands of dollars beyond what we would normally sell for a week.
It's the same thing with holidays. Like, you slowly, in the months leading up to it, you slowly build up your stock, like we do for Free Comic Book Day, like we do for Christmas. And then once it's immediately depleted in a very short period of time, and the sale's the same way.
Right. But for a weekly order, or for a monthly order, I should say, it's a lot more difficult because you can't just say, like, well, I'm only going to get $3,000 worth of comics this week. Well, it depends what's coming out. I mean, even if instead of, like you said, for weekly, it's hard to say because you never know when things are going to land. Things could get delayed, pushed forward, back, what have you. But even if you look at your monthly catalog order, it's incredibly difficult some months to say, oh, I'm just not going to order a bunch. Well, Marvel could launch a whole bunch of new titles. Like the months where they had stuff like Captain America and Spider-Man and whatever else launching, that's going to screw up your June, July order forms. Like, there's just more stuff. Same thing for House of X and Powers of 10. Like, you have to increase your budget because these are books that are selling multiples of what your previous X-Men book sold. And you can't just say, oh, well, I'm just going to order less other books. If you're selling out of stuff, if things are selling well, you have to find some way to increase that budget to accommodate more sales and growing your business. So, the idea of allocating X amount of dollars a month for product, like, I just don't think it's reasonable in this industry because these are not apples and oranges. It's not just getting one thing again and again and again, and everything is just sort of, similar products. Like, they're not. They're absolutely not. If you got a hit book or a book that's going to be a hit book, you have to order differently than a non-hit book. Like,
that's just the only way. That's the only way to do it.
And you never know what a publisher is going to be putting out, so you could have months where they just put out a bunch of big projects, and you have to find some way to stock those as well as the stuff you were already selling out of.
We've recently switched to the way we pay Diamond. We're paying them electronically now, which is a thing that I can't believe it's taken this long for it to be an option in this day and age. I mean, nobody wants to write checks for your Diamond bills and things like that. No. But one of the things that has always been weird about the way Diamond operates, but also we didn't realize that actually, it doesn't hurt us, but it doesn't help us. Diamond, who is far and away the company we give the most money to over the year, hundreds of thousands of dollars we give to them. They don't report to any credit agencies.
Yeah, that's something that retailers would bring up at Diamond Q&As, at Diamond Summits and Diamond Breakfasts at conventions. And I think I've heard it almost every time that I've been to one of those where they've had you can ask Diamond questions thing. Someone will bring up you are my biggest account. You don't report to any credit agencies, so it's hard for me to establish credit to grow my business.
Yeah, we pay you every single week. We have a great track record of timely payments. Yeah, personally, everything else we do at Challengers, we run basically a cash business. I mean, it's electronic, but we don't use credit cards. We use debit cards. We pay for things with money we have. We don't go in the hole anymore because we've learned, after a rocky start, what's better for us in the long run. But it's not better for us because we don't have a credit footprint, and it makes us look on paper like a shaky or shady business.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way it is for people. Like, if you're someone who gets a paycheck and deposits the money in your bank and lives off of that money and doesn't charge anything to a credit card, doesn't take out any loans, only spends what you make, even if you're saving up money, even if you're living well within your means, if you go to any bank and say, okay, well, I'm going to need like a home loan, they're going to go, okay, well, you have like no credit rating. Like, but I have all this money. Doesn't matter. Like, you need a credit card. You need to have shown that you can have credit and use credit before anyone's going to give you more credit.
But even though we have this company, and same thing with Southern Hobby, and same thing with all of our other suppliers, people that we pay every single week, sometimes multiple times a week if they have books coming or product coming from somewhere else. That doesn't help us. That doesn't make us look like a more established business.
Nope.
It's such a weird thing, and it's a thing that we never really considered until things we're trying to do lately, where it's like, oh, that's why this looks bad for us.
Yeah.
Okay. That does remind me of a quick other story, and again, it's a shipping related story. So this is kind of a shipping episode, if you will.
Cool.
See if you can dig up any more shipping topics while I'm telling this. Wow, that was quick. This anecdote. We had ordered a product from one of our suppliers, and they called us this week and said, well, that thing you ordered, we're not getting at your warehouse. We're getting it at a different warehouse in the country. Okay? They don't do product swaps like you would think because of geographical reasons or shipping or whatever. So for us to get the item that we ordered, we would have to get it shipped out from that other city, which is not close. Obviously, it's not close because it's being shipped.
Yep.
Fine. But to get it shipped out, we'd have to pay shipping on an item that we wouldn't have to pay shipping for, or a very nominal shipping fee because of our location to the other distributor. Now, they do have an option where if you spend X amount of money, like every online retailer, basically, you can get free shipping if you order this much product. And while I'm having this conversation, first of all, this is a supplier we use regularly and we have a good relationship with, and they've been on our side for things in the past. They've helped us out before. Fine. And we did. We added a couple of more things. We had a stretch to think, what else can we get? Because it can't be anything heavy, because then they do charge freight, because they have to. It had to be something small enough to add on and fit into a small package with this other item. And we thought about it, but literally while I was on the phone with that distributor, I had said, all right, well, what if we just cancel that order? You can't cancel it. You pre-ordered it. So we have to order more things or pay extra to get a thing that we ordered, expecting it to be delivered to us like normal without extra shipping costs. How is this our problem? And you heard me literally say something very much like that. Like, I don't see how this is our problem. And I didn't want to do it I didn't mean in a dick way. I just meant like, no, really, how can you do this? How can that be a thing? There's no answer to that.
No.
That didn't get answered. It was just like, hey, that's the way it is.
Yep.
But like I said, we like them. We work with them. The product that we ordered, well, we didn't immediately need, we'll eventually need, fine.
Sure.
We'll take the hit for now. But it just seems such like kind of a dick move.
Kind of.
This is almost completely unrelated, but not. We frequently talk about wrestling.
Yes.
That's because we consume wrestling with our eye holes. And part of how we do that is on the WWE Network. And there was a recent, what they call pay-per-views, although they're not anymore really, because you're not paying to view that specific thing. Although technically I guess we are, because that's all we really use it for.
Yeah.
But it turns out that, well, I subscribe to the WWE Network via the subscriptions function on iTunes. And it is a 6-month subscription, so every 6 months I renew it for 6 more months. And it's automatic. It's an automatic renewal. And it just renewed back on August 27th, 26th, 27th, 28th, something like that. One of those days. Well, I hadn't used it up until the point of that renewal since up until the recent pay-per-view Clash of Champions was going to be on over the weekend, which I was going to watch. Only when I went to watch it, it turns out that I don't have an account anymore. I do have an account on the WWE Network. I don't have a subscription. So I have an active account, but I don't have access to the video content. In fact, there's a little lock symbol on every program. So I luckily, it was a Sunday afternoon, and they had help hours. And the long story short is the WWE Network went through some changes recently, and they no longer connect subscriptions to iTunes. So they ended my subscription 2 or 3 days after I'd resubscribed because they don't connect to iTunes anymore. Mm-hmm. So what that means is iTunes automatically renews, but the WWE doesn't get that information because they don't connect anymore. And also they don't count that as a valid way to do it. And I've also learned they don't accept the gift cards anymore. Like if you bought a prepaid network gift card, they just redesigned their whole site, and they can't, like, they don't know how those factor in right now. So currently, you can't use those.
Crazy.
If that is how you are paying, you can't do it. So I paid. I'm paid up through February of 2020, but I can't access the content. Ugh. So the WWE representative said that's an iTunes problem. You have to get a refund from iTunes. And part of me is like, how can they still charge me if you don't connect to them anymore? Like, did you not tell them? They're like, it's an iTunes issue. So I went to iTunes, and everything is automated through there. And when it takes forever to find out how to request a refund from an app purchase, which is what this basically is. But they do have a record of everything you buy, and it shows that subscription just renewed. And not that it matters, but I had my receipt. Well, according to iTunes, the WWE Network is not available for refunds. So I got no refund. So I've done some more digging and emailed some other places, and it's a we'll get back to you in 48 hours kind of thing. But the WWE's advice to me was, well, if you really want to watch the pay-per-view, just set up a new account and pay now. Their advice is to double pay.
Yeah, pay more money.
Is to pay more money.
Sort it out right now.
I get it. They may not have gotten that money from iTunes, but I still paid it.
It's not great customer service.
I don't understand how... That would be like us taking money from you for Marvel Comics and then saying, sorry, Marvel didn't make that comic. You got to get your money back from them. Mm-hmm. Then why do we take your money?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It's such a weird... Man, it feels like it's a couple of times this week where there was a whole bunch of, hey, this is a thing that you have to deal with, even though it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you ordered this thing. We don't have it. You have to pay more to get it.
And just hitting that wall of explaining your situation, having someone go, that is a reasonable request. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No explanation.
Okay. Nope.
No compromise. Just no.
And that ties back into, how much is shipping for this? Uh-huh. Well, here's your total. But I mean, how much shipping for this? Well, no, here's your total. Can you explain this, Diamond, please? Thank you. Please and thank you. And it's not like we don't know what we're doing as retailers. I mean, we kind of wrote the book on it. And by that I mean we wrote a few pages.
We contributed to a book on it.
We contributed to a book on it. Mm-hmm. A new book came out this week that was put together by the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and published through Dark Horse Comics, edited by Alex Cox, who now, by the way, works for IDW Portland.
Correct.
Called Selling Comics. And we were approached, actually, earlier this year. It was made official during C2E2, in person at C2E2. But the editor, Alex Cox, was reaching out to people to talk about the subjects that he thought they would each be best suited for. Mm-hmm. For example, our good friend John Dudas from John and Carol's comic shop. I'm sorry, Carol and John's comic shop.
Whoops.
In Cleveland. Sorry, Carol. Carol and John's shop. John is really good at social media, and in fact, Facebook loves him, and he gets to attend conferences and things.
We had a group of people in on, I think, Monday. They were in town for probably Riot Fest.
Okay.
They bought a bunch of stuff. And a woman who was buying some stuff had said that she needed to kind of stop looking because she's kind of on a budget. She can't buy too much stuff. Sometimes they go to comic shops and they kind of forget their budget and they buy way too much stuff. They did that when they were in Cleveland. I'm like, oh, where'd you go in Cleveland? And there's a pause and they're trying to think of it. And I go, Carol and John's? Yeah, it's a good store. Yeah, they're so great. Oh my God, we bought so much stuff there. I'm like, yep, I've heard that before.
See, it's interesting. Comic fans can have budgets.
Yeah.
So John is great with social media, so he wrote a chapter on social media. We were asked to write about, any guesses? Anybody? Not you, you know.
Complaining on podcasts.
Branding. We were asked to write about branding, and we did. And so there's a chapter in there about branding written by us.
Yep.
And it's kind of neat. Like, there was what was another book that you took part of? That Dan Gennaro book?
I don't remember the name.
Yeah. Anyway, there's that. Like
I'm in that one too.
Yeah.
But this one we wrote, that was like an interview thing.
Well, sure.
Like
sure.
He wrote the whole book and would, take what people are saying and sculpt it into prose or journalism. This was, we had to write a chapter in a book.
And then there was the My Shaman's Comic Shop. No. The My Comic Shop Country documentary that Anthony Desiato just put out over the summer, where a portion of it, a few minutes of it, were filmed in Challengers, where he talked to myself.
Yeah.
And that just, it's kind of neat that over the last couple of years, we get recognized as people that maybe you know what you're doing.
Maybe. I wouldn't agree with that.
Oh, sure.
If
but
people think that.
Sure.
Sure.
And then we rip on everyone and everything on a podcast.
True. Just disappointed by a lot of stuff,
Sure. But that doesn't keep us from trying new things and doing new things and setting up events, even though we said we're going to scale back. Mm-hmm. We are actually, this is Batman Day just happened.
Yep.
I mean, for listeners, not for us. We haven't had it yet. But hey, thanks, Luke. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Maria and Allie and maybe Amy, because we're not sure if Amy's going to be there or not.
Okay.
And thanks, Lizzie. And I guess a special thanks to Bill Finger. Tiny, tiny little thanks to Bob Kane.
Nah.
And thanks to DC Comics for that. Speaking of DC Comics, they have a younger readers book that we're big fans of called Dear Justice League.
Yep. And
Dear Justice League is about the Justice League answering questions from kids.
Yeah.
Each character gets their own individual chapter where they answer a question and there's a story behind their answer. Mm-hmm. But it's written by New York Times bestselling writer Michael North something. Cup something. Sorry. But it's drawn by one of our very best friends in comics, Gustavo Duarte. Gustavo had an art show back at Challengers. Even after the Rogues Gallery had went away,
yeah,
we still made room for him because
he's a dude that, was it Rafa Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Who's like, this guy. You should check out this guy. Like, he's not a huge guy in North America, but he's huge in Brazil, and he's great, and you should have him. And so we were like, and I think we'd gotten copies of his book.
We'd gotten copies of one of his sketchbooks when Molly Jane was out in San Diego.
Yeah.
And we got copies of...
Because was he tabling with Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Jill.
Yeah.
It was at Jill's booth.
Yeah. So we gotten that, and we gotten like what would eventually be the Monsters book from Dark Horse in its original printing.
But we got that from Raphael, right? Like, he brought that for us.
Yeah, so we're like, holy crap, this dude is amazing. So we ended up, working with him to do an art show. We did art show, print, signing. And I mean, we've kept in touch with him ever since.
Wonderful guy. Yeah. One of the absolute nicest people you're ever going to meet.
Yeah.
He's got such a fun, clean drawing style.
Yeah.
He lives in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Which is kind of the problem. Like, if he was a guy that was, local-ish in the sense of, like, maybe he lived in America, like, we would have him out a lot more often or find reasons to kind of catch him when he's in town. But he's not in town a whole lot because he lives in Brazil.
However, he's going to be in town on Wednesday, November 13th. Because he's coming to Challengers to do a signing for Dear Justice League. And we're very excited. It's been years since we've physically seen him. We chat all the time, electronically, but it'll have been years, and we want this to be a big deal. Obviously, we want all of our events to be a big deal, but we're bringing this guy in from Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Please show up.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind, this is a guy who lives in Brazil who's coming to Chicago in November. So understand the sacrifice he's making as a human being. The last time he was up with a woman who was with him. Josie. And we were trying to explain, like, Chicago winters. And, like, basically converting what the post-wind chill Fahrenheit temperature was to the Celsius that they were familiar with. We converted on the iPhone and went, oh, it's basically this. And, like, the eyes just got huge. Like, that is... human beings don't live in that sort of temperature. You don't do that. It's like, well, up here we do because we're stupid.
And that was October that they were there, I believe it was.
In October, I mean, it was still
Right.
fine, but we were explaining, like, here's what it's going to be like in a couple of months. And
Well, this is later in the year for him.
Yeah, November in Chicago, it's a tricky thing. I've had, it's going to be a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, but I've had Thanksgivings where I could go out in like a light coat that evening. And I've had Thanksgivings where it's like, oh, maybe just stay in the entire day because your skin will freeze off.
Yep.
So we'll see how this one goes.
We're also working on a very big signing for the week afterwards, and literally I just sent off an email about that.
Mm-hmm.
We dumped on our events last week or 2 weeks ago, and now this event was, we start with, hey, we should get Svengoolian. Yeah, hey, let's do this. Like, we can't rein in our excitement.
So that's the whole thing, is that in general with events, it's very much like a roller coaster for us. There's this process in the beginning where you're getting very excited about it, and all you're thinking about is how great it's going to be and how fun it's going to be and all this stuff. And then there's the event, which kind of precipitates this drop where it's like, oh, the turnout wasn't what we were looking for. We didn't sell through as much as we wanted to. We put all this work in and it didn't deliver. And then kind of like there's this next hill, which is the next event, and you start going up again and you're like, oh no, this is going to be great. Like it's so predictable, and yet like there's this kind of visceral feeling to it on both sides. The run up where you're very excited and optimistic, and then the drop off where it's all pessimism and what did you do wrong and we're not good at this. And then it just goes back up again and you're like, no, we're great. This is awesome. And then it drops again, and it's a very long, nearly 12-year roller coaster, but it's,
I need to see if there's a chapter in Selling Comics about store events, and if it was written by the Third Eye guys or not.
Maybe. We've had plenty of people give us various advice on events over the years, and we've tried replicating some of the suggestions that we've been given about how you should be promoting things, not just like, flyers and stuff, but how are you promoting the book itself? How are you creating an audience for this? How are you activating that audience, letting them know? And we've tried all those things, and oh my God, they basically never work for us.
Well, this second November signing that I alluded to will be a whole different kind of thing that will have a preset number of attendees.
Yeah, definitely the sort of event where we have to do like an Eventbrite sort of ticketing limited thing in advance. Maybe, I don't know if we'll do Eventbrite or if we'll do like in-store ticket sales or something.
Something. I mean, I think Eventbrite is easier for people who are coming from different cities.
They are. I'm going to try and investigate just some other stuff because the problem with Eventbrite is the service fees. And you can make people pay that, but then it's like, how much are you charging people extra just to participate in the event versus what can we do internally that we can just, like, I'm going to look into, like, is there a Square or a PayPal thing where we can just go, this amount. We're selling this many of this thing, and this thing equates to, you come to the store.
Well, I mean, there's Square PayPal invoices. You could do that.
But not even invoices. Like an automated thing where you're clicking a button and you're buying a thing.
Okay.
But I'll have to investigate that because we've never really used it for that function. But I'll have to look at it.
I bet you could put an item on our website the way we sell anything through Square on the website.
Sure, but the problem is, there's a lot of additional things that we would want to loop into that, like limits.
Yeah.
So people can't just, I'll buy 100 of these and then resell them. And then when they buy it, what are they getting when they show up to say, I bought something? I don't just need like a receipt that they got in an email. Like I need something else that's going to be more itemized, Okay. And so that's the stuff that basically you're paying for when you're paying Eventbrite fees is that functionality.
Gotcha.
If that functionality was easy to do, they wouldn't be able to charge that much. So I'll have to investigate it. We got time.
We do. We don't even know if we're doing it yet.
Right.
And it's funny because the number of people that are now involved in this chain of attempting it, where basically it was, I sent an email to one person who then said, hey, we just lost the person at our company that'd be doing that, but until we get confirmation, like, until we get somebody new in that position, I'm the point person, but let me bring in the editors of that book. And then it became, hey, here's our marketing people. And then it became 2 more people, and then we just got the replacement. So there's like literally, I showed you the chain of how many people, and none of this has even been agreed to by the creator. Or creators.
Yeah, have not officially said they're doing this, but yeah, I mean, it's smarter to go through the company first
Yeah.
they will determine whether or not it's worth going to the creator and trying to work it out and all that stuff.
They did say, hey, if you have your own connection, go ahead and use it.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, like so one of the reasons that we have a Gustavo signing is because he saw that DC was doing a national tour for Teen Titans Raven with Cami Garcia and Gabrielle Piccolo, and Gabrielle Piccolo is one of his countrymen.
That's cool.
And he thought, oh, I wonder if they'll do something for me. Well, it turns out that DC is more than excited for us to do this.
Yeah, I can sort of understand DC's position. Like, the YA audience is kind of a lot bigger as far as, like, signings and stuff, I would think, than the average middle grade book. You know, obviously you've got your superstars, your Raina Telgemeyers and whatnot, but the YA audience seems a lot more activated, so having, like, a Cami Garcia signing with Gabrielle Piccolo feels a lot bigger than literally any what used to be called a Zoom book would be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think those books are all good, but I can't look at any of them and go, oh yeah, that's definitely going to draw the same crowds that, like, a woman who has a YA fantasy series or whatever is going to draw.
I thought I had a copy right here. Pretty sure it's Michael Northrop.
I think you're probably right. Do you want me to maybe do this instead of you?
No, it might be up there though. I might have moved it. Yeah, but no, it's not there because I just redid this pile.
Oh, okay.
We're going through our pile of studio galleys.
Uh-huh.
Our advanced reader
Arcs?
copies.
Or arcs?
Yes. I think it's right up there.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. It's Michael Northrop.
I'm not good enough.
You don't have to. Well, you do have to because we're just about done unless you have anything to bring up from this week. I feel like I monopolized a lot of the talking this time.
I didn't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you read any good comics this week?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I did.
And you can't just say House of X5.
House of X5 is really good. I don't know that anything that was brand new this week really jumped out at me like I'd wanted it to.
Did you read Inferior 5?
I tried. I just wasn't feeling it.
It's so weird that they're doing a story that takes place in the middle of Invasion.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, but it's very wordy, and I just wasn't compelled by anything I was reading. It just wasn't clicking with me. Spider-Man made a lot of narrative choices in the beginning that I just in general are not something I'm super fond of in 2019. The main story,
like having Peter Parker dress up as Aladdin for a costume party, really, that was
just a bad choice.
Yeah.
Just really didn't think that one through.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Parker's a hard luck guy who makes bad decisions, but this is taking it to a level that I think is maybe unwarranted. No, Spider-Man has...
Wait, is Justin Trudeau Spider-Man?
Uh-oh.
Huh.
The Spider-Man J.J. Abrams, Henry Abrams, Sarah Pichelli with Dave Stewart comic book, there's craft on display. Like, the writing is solid as far as, like, the dialogue and the pacing. The art is not as good as I've seen Sarah Pichelli do, but it's not terrible by any stretch.
Wait, do you mean Sarah Pichelli, who lives in Rome, Italy, and we had out for a signing years ago that had like 15 people?
We do. I remember that, and yeah, all true. Yeah, for a comic that Marvel had a ton of confidence in and was kind of hinting would be a million seller, there's definitely people who are excited about it. We had a few people who contacted us kind of late into Thursday even, who were like, yeah, am I down for that J.J. Abrams Spider-Man comic? So people are finding out about it and talking about it.
Well, good.
I just found it not great. Kind of, it's... In the same way that people can frequently come to comics and have the, like, no one's ever thought to do this story, and it's like, oh my god, everybody has. Like, it hits a lot of the things that a J.J. Abrams comic is always going to hit. It's fathers and sons, and it's generational stuff, and it's... Somebody made a point in an online review that it's the standard, like, instead of focusing on the high concept and all of the kind of sci-fi elements of it, it's stripping it down to more relatable personal human emotions. You know, it's something that the high concept is additive to instead of being the main draw. But in general, I just found the whole first issue fine. Nothing really special. Again, there's the decisions they make in the early going that take it from like, oh, I'm sort of interested to, oh, that's the most obvious thing you can do, and the repercussions of it are the most obvious repercussions you could have, and all of this is stories that they've done with Spider-Man before. and it was not saying anything new to me. Like,
without being the same thing, it's like in the movie Deadpool 2, where they kill Vanessa early on, and then to motivate Wade, and then when asked about it, the directors or the writer or both, whatever, when they were said, "Don't you think that's like the thing you shouldn't do anymore? It's called fridging," and they had no idea it was a bad thing to do.
What, people have done this before, and it's looked on poorly? Yeah, man, by a lot of people for at least the last, 10 years. So, yeah, to do something like that right off the bat in Spider-Man is like, you're kind of digging yourself a hole it's very, very difficult to crawl out of. So even when other things in the book are delivered well, even if they're kind of perfunctory, they're at least done with some craft to them. It's still just like, the core of this is just something that I don't think is terribly interesting, or certainly it's not very fresh. Like, I kind of wish somebody at Marvel, Nick Lowe perhaps, who's the highly touted editor of the book, who does like a text piece in the back where he's so excited about this project and what the Abrams bring to it and how special this story is, had gone to them when they pitched a story and said, okay, we've done a lot of these before? Like, we've done this specific story before?
We just ended Spider-Man Life Story.
Yeah.
Where several of these things have come up.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them.
Like, I don't want to ruin stuff, but by this point, like, it's pretty much, like, been noted in plenty of reviews and online notices. It's about, it's not a continuity title. It's, something happens to Mary Jane, and 12 years later, Spider-Man is raising his now teenage son alone. And it's Spider-Man, Peter Parker, being a shitty dad, and not being there for his son, and feeling consumed by the guilt of losing his wife and not being able to connect emotionally with his child. And it's like, yeah, man, that was, like, Peter Parker being a shitty dad was the story that Chip Zdarsky just did.
Yeah.
He literally just did it 2 months ago.
And also not why I read Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, and it's exploring, like, what would Peter Parker be like if he was a dad? It's like, oh my god, we've done these stories. We've done so many of these stories. And, yeah, the superhero who's now a shitty dad or whatever, like, again, we've seen those. It's not fresh. I get that, like, a father and a son want to tell a story about a father and a son, but, oh my god, I would have been so much happier if they would have gone the other way, and, like, maybe Peter Parker doesn't hang around, but Mary Jane does. And what's that like with, the woman who married Spider-Man essentially having to raise a new Spider-Man, and being there at the beginning of his story instead of later in it? Like, all of those are things where it's like, god damn, that sounds really fun. Like, making her the mentor character to Spider-Man instead of just, the wife, sidekick, worried spouse, whatever. In the same way that...
Aunt May was.
Well, no, I was going to say the Renew Your Vows book said, what if she's got superpowers too? What if it's a family story? Like, oh my god, that's way more interesting than just, like, Spider-Man and his kid go out and have adventures. Like, include her in the story. Make her more prominent in the narrative. And this just does the fridging thing, and that in and of itself is, like, such a dumb idea. And it's so dumb to do it in 2019 and not have anyone involved in the production of the comic pump the brakes at the beginning to go, I see how you might think this is, emotionally resonant, and I see how you want to move the father and son relationship to the forefront, and I see how you're seeding in ideas where maybe this is something that is reversed by the end of the story. Boy, it doesn't make the beginning of the story any better. To go back to Deadpool 2, at the end of it, they bring her back.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the whole movie any better for the fact of, you still did the fridging thing. You can hang a lantern on it and go, this is dumb, or, boy, we shouldn't have done that, or we're going to undo it. You still did it, and you did a whole story where that was the emotional motivation for the character, is his lady friend got blown up, and he blames himself, and now he's got to be a more heroic hero because he feels so bad about this lady who died, because it's all about his pain. And it's like, yeah, these are just core bad decisions that even a competently done superhero story is like, cool, it's a competently done superhero story built around a dumb idea. I don't think we need that. I don't know.
That being said, if you're interested, we still have plenty of copies and plenty of covers available on the shelves.
Yeah, definitely
now.
Judge it for yourself. I don't mean this to be a thing where I'm saying, like, you're wasting your money on it. I don't think you are. I didn't finish reading it and go, God, I wish I hadn't read that. And I've done that sometimes with comic books.
And, well, you just said about Inferior 5, but I know for a fact you will read the other issues of this comic.
For Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I'll read at least another one, but I mean, there's a point where it's like, I feel like I know this story pretty well. I don't know that I need more of it. But I definitely would like people to judge it for themselves. Maybe they're going to have a different take on it, or feel differently about how the story's executed, or care less about how the characters are motivated. Like, this is just me reading a story, and my life experiences informing my reaction to it. It is not, some sort of final statement on the book. I'm not placing a disclaimer on the front letting you know that you're wasting your time or money. Like, people can get out of art whatever they want to get out of art.
Well, it may not be the final statement on that comic, but it wound up being the final subject on this podcast. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.